Welcome to Office Hours Live with me, of course, Patricia Haywood. And as you know, I like to talk about contract and legal issues that affect small and medium sized businesses, as well as growing and scaling businesses. So, welcome back. I am a little under the weather today, but I decided I cannot miss this. I cannot. It's in my diary now. It's in every calendar I have, and I ensure that I turn up for this session. I really do enjoy doing these, so I'm a little bit under the weather, but we are here, and I'm so grateful if you're here with me. If you watch the replay, I'm so grateful that you took time out to watch the replay. So I'm going to make it quick this week. I'm going to just focus on some questions that I've gotten over the past couple of weeks, and let's just dive into them. So the first one that I get often is, what is this map behind me? Yes. And we just love maps. In my family, we just love maps. That's all. And it's a decal that I got for my little one. And we've since switched rooms, so I'm stuck with it, but I love it. We just love maps, so that's why it's in the background. I just haven't gotten around to taking it down. Actually, my concern is if I start taking it down, the paint comes down with it, so I'm a little bit hesitant right now to take it down. So I just love it. And like the previous version of Patricia would have waited until everything was perfect to start doing these lives. But the version I am right now is I'm just going. Like, it's there. I'm still going. I'm not going to wait for it to be gone. It probably won't be gone anytime soon. So I'll be waiting, right? So the new version of me is just like, get going, girl. It doesn't matter. Just get going. The content is what you're here for, and it is what it is, right? So that's what the map is. It's just the map of the world. We love maps. That's all. The a question that I've been getting quite a bit is how I broke into how I got into particularly construction law. And I've gotten this question from a few people, mostly younger lawyers or younger people who are trying to break into the legal industry, particularly because, as you know, I'm an immigrant. I don't hide it. Okay. So I get that question quite a bit, so I would say, and this was my response to them as well in the DMs, is that how I got into it, it wasn't a plan, to be honest. I just kept one foot in front of the other. Things weren't going the way I had planned them. And that's the thing. Career, I would say 8 times out of 10. I'm sure for some people it goes that way. But for me, hands up, for me, it didn't go that way. Okay. Life, I would say 8 times, and your career is not going to go, it's not always going to go the way you planned it or the way you think it is going to go. And that's what happened to me. Um, they just, I made this plan. It wasn't going the way I thought it was going to go, but doors opened to other things. And I just took the opportunity. Well, truth be told, I didn't have many doors opening. It's not like I had like three-way choices around here, which road to take. And I just took the opportunities, and one thing led to another. So the first thing I would say is, just be open. You'll make your plans. They won't all go according to the way you've made them, the way you've put them down on paper. Just be open. So I was open, to other things because it just wasn't going according to my plan. So you have to be flexible that way. And then the other thing is, I, particularly in construction for me was a wonderful place to be because it has such a mixture of people and personalities and nationalities that I really did feel like a little bit like I was home in construction, because when you're on site you're mixing with so many different people, different languages, different shades, colors, ethnicities, cultures, and it really you don't stand out as much. That was my experience than working like in private practice. When I worked in private practice, I stuck out like a thumb. Okay, I didn't talk like everyone else. I didn't dress like everyone else because, as you know, I'm from the tropics, from the Caribbean. So I wore bright colors, all up in here in winter time, in my bright colors and stuff. And people would comment on it. So I stuck out. But when I moved into, full blown construction, it was just home for me. So I would say another thing is to find where you feel welcome and to find where you feel like you have a greater opportunity to bring your whole self to that environment. And that was construction for me. So how I really got into construction law, when I started in construction, I worked my way up. So I would work in non-traditional legal roles really when I started in construction. So I would do project management, quantity surveying, commercial. Even the last major project that I sat on was in commercial, right? Um, but being a lawyer always helped me to understand the contracts a little better, to liaise with different departments and pull things together. And it really gave me an opportunity to hone some skills and just the experience that I got actually being on site. It's invaluable. And that is, I would say, my USP right now in the marketplace when I work with clients. It's effortless because I've been there, I've done it. I've not been sat in, like I always say, in a West End office, some glass building, drafting up these things in a silo. I've actually seen the contract on a construction site. So I would say, and even when I started, it wasn't glamorous. And oftentimes I tell people come to me about advice about getting in. It was not glamorous, right? And you have to be willing to do that non-glamorous work. But I assure you, if you're willing to do that, the payoff will be great for you because you're going to learn things that many lawyers just don't learn. Um, so that's how I ventured into construction. I didn't plan it, the doors just opened. I started with non legal roles, and my legal skill set helped me in those roles. I've worked in this industry in various countries doing various things from feasibility studies to project management to being consultant in top law firms on major projects worldwide. Um, so it really just opened up something for me. Just be flexible. Be flexible. Things don't go your way. Take the door that opens. That's always my advice. Take the door that opens. You'll be surprised where it leads you. So, how I broke into construction, that's the short of it. Another question that I got recently was AI in contracts, and have I used AI in my contracts? So, I would say yes and no. When in the last few years gone by, when AI became this great big deal thing, and I reached out to some companies that were doing AI for contracts, and I don't know if it's cool for me to name them, so I won't. But and some of them actually reached out to me as well about using their programs, but and one reached out to me recently to say they've made some tweaks because there were some issues, especially with construction contracts. Because as you know, construction contracts, you have multiple contracts that make up the deal, right? And the issue with the programs that I tried was that they needed one contract, whereas in construction, that's not how we work. And they acknowledge this. The AI company startup acknowledged this, and they had suggested some workarounds, but it didn't add much value, so I abandoned that. Since like a couple of weeks ago, one of them wrote to say if I'm willing to try again because they believe they've cracked it. I don't know, I haven't confirmed that I will try again, to be honest. And last week I attended an online webinar thing. I think it was with Law Insider, where they were talking about they were demoing and showing us how they have a new AI program for contract drafting, and so I have not tried it, but I went to that webinar. My experience with AI in contracts is it's mixed. It's not quite there yet, and it's not. It's not. I know LexisNexis has AI as a good AI program as well, and but it's just not there yet. It won't replace you if that's the concern. It's not going to replace you tomorrow. Okay, so but I've tried it, and it's it it doesn't do my it didn't meet my expectation, and so I didn't continue. I do have like assistants, like one of my assistants, a legal assistant, who she's tried AI for contracts, and I don't think she's had better luck than I have had. So I would say it's not going to replace you. If that's your concern, AI is not going to replace you tomorrow. Okay, it's just not there yet. You have to check anything it tells you. You have to check it. It will tell you there are things in the contract that's not there. It will tell you um, it would interpret things incorrectly. It would make up things like case law or interpret it. It will just make things up, and you have to check it. You can't just leave. It's not foolproof. You can't just leave it to do things and take it and take whatever it. Let's say you ask it to do an analysis or a summary of this contract and take that and give it to your client. You cannot do that. You have to go through it yourself. Which, in my view, I'm just like, why am I doing this twice? I might just do it myself. So that's what I've been doing. But as I said, a company that I'd spoken to a couple of years ago, they've come back now to say, let's try it for your construction, but I haven't replied to them confirming that I'm willing to really try it, to be honest. So that's for construction law, that's where it is. If you're doing like simple contracts, I'm sure it may be helpful to you. The major players out there, all the major players now are incorporating AI into their program. So that be Law Insider, LexisNexis. Um, what's the other one I use? I forgot the name. All of them now. So before you used to have like these standalone programs, startups would come up with these programs, and then they like the major legal resources, they didn't have it, but they're all incorporating it now. So you can use it to tweak, do drafting and stuff like that. I think for simple contracts, it may be helpful, but for the complex contracts, and I work with quite a few complex deals, it's just not there yet. And I wouldn't trust it to give me any advice to give my clients, to be honest. I just don't trust it. I just don't trust it. Another question that I got was about the payment terms that I spoke about last week and the previous week. And the question was about paid when paid clauses. And this person said that they've gotten paid when paid clauses, and it really messes with their cash flow. What are my views on paid when paid clauses? And I will say I have had that. I've had it. I'm not even going to lie to you. I've had it, especially when I just started out in this game out here in these streets. I've had paid when paid clauses, and I get it. And there are times when you can't negotiate out of those clauses, like to say I'm not going to do that. The Especially if you're working as a consultant or a freelancer, you're working with a consultancy, they love to pay when pay because they're waiting on their client to pay them in order to pay you. Because what one thing you need to realize is that a lot of these big companies that we look up to, they're actually not doing that well. They're not. They're actually not great at cash flow. They're actually not great at contract management. They're actually not great at running businesses. Okay, that's why you hear the rumors about them, you see them in the news. We look up to them like the holy grail. But I would tell you, they are not all that glitters, because if you're a big corporation, you're a big consultancy, and you hired me to so I've worked like this, and I still work like this sometimes because I have like huge law firms, name them top 100 and above, who would bring me on, especially for construction, to help them with advising their clients. And so they'll bring you on, right? And you would think big consultancy or big law firm should have enough cash coming through that, like I'm a small entity, you know, I'm a small entity. You would think that they would, um, I hope you're hearing me because I didn't check my mic before I came on. But you would think that they would have the cash flow because they're big, I'm small, to pay me, right? Because they know small businesses out here, we need the cash flow. So they shouldn't have to wait until their client pay them to pay me. Because as a small business, right, you're paying your people, you're paying your subcontractors, your consultants, your freelancers, you're paying them, right? So why do you have to wait on big guy to get paid to pay you? Because 9 times out of 10 out here, you're not waiting to pay these people. They want their money and you're paying them. Because as I said, early on when I started this series, relationship is huge for us as small and medium-sized businesses, right? So I'm looking over here because I'm dramatizing. I'm looking at big guy up here, big consultancy. So I've had it where they put in there that they can't pay me until they get paid by their end client, the client up the top, right? And there, especially when I started out, yeah, it was hard for me to negotiate on those terms. I totally understand where you're coming from. As I always say, when I speak, I'm speaking from experience. Either it's my own or from my clients. Like I'm not making this stuff up. I've gone through it where I just don't feel. Because remember, I have a video on that. I don't feel because of my paradigms and hangups that I can negotiate with them, right? So I don't approach that topic um, early on. Very different now. Very, very different now. The way I do things. So I get it. Paid when paid clauses are still they're a thing. You would think it doesn't happen, but it does happen. And and as I said, you're surprised at who these people are who is pushing down these paid when paid terms. First of all, depending on the industry you're in, there may be a charter against that. So check that as well. And they may have like payment sign up to in construction they sign up to lots of charters. May sign up to something like they'll pay you within 30 days of your work or something like that. Check if the business that you're going to get this contract with has signed up to a charter like that, and present it to them. Hey, you're signed up to this. What you're proposing is not in accordance with this thing that you said that you're going to do, right? So that's one thing that you can do. And I've done that with for clients, especially for subcontractors, where the main contractor is listen, you sign up to this charter, you out here putting these things on your hoarding, that you're considered a constructor, that you sign up for fair wage living, this, that, blah, blah, and you're out here in your contracts doing something different. And it really gets them to think. They're like, oh yeah, because because oftentimes the marketing team or the team that handles that side of the business is not talking to the people who are doing the contracts, right? So the terms they're just not meeting in the middle, and you remind them of it, and they'll be like, oh yeah, yeah, can't make this get out, and they'll be willing to have that discussion. But another thing that you can do, if you're in a position where you feel like you can't negotiate paid when paid, or you're just like, I need this contract badly, and I've been there as well, where I just need this contract. We're going through this dry spell and I need this contract. One of the things that you can do, check the charters, but also is to put in there that fine, the paid when paid, but you can't go beyond a certain date. So what is that date for you? So I know I can't go 90 days without getting paid. So put that date in there. Okay, you pay when pay, but the cutoff point is 60 days or 90 days or something like that. Put it in there, because it can't just go on and on and on and on. And One of the things that I've working on the other side, because I worked on the other side of these businesses where um, y- you're I'm working in their business with them, even when I used to work as an employee, right, in big organizations. And sometimes just their payment process, the process that they have internally is so long. And they don't manage, some of them don't manage contracts well. So no one is chasing up the client for payment, but you're sat on the end, not knowing what's happening, waiting for payment, paid when paid, but no one is chasing the client to get paid. Like they drop the ball on it. So you need to put a cutoff date in your contract that after this date, um, you can't pay after this date, right? I can't wait this long. This is my cutoff point, whether it's net 60 or 15 days after the paid when paid, and let them put. One of the things that I love to do is to have sight of the top contract, and I'll tell them you can redact it. I don't need to see everything. I just need to see key clauses, like what are the payment terms you have agreed with them, what's the spec, and how that impacts me. Like there's certain things that you need to know. And as you know, in some contracts, especially in construction, they like to put, and there's and watch out for this, when they say that y- um, you have, you know, seen the contract that they have with their client. They love to do this, so watch out for that. They'll put in there that they have a contract with their client and you're aware of it. I'm not aware of it if I haven't seen it. I need to see it for myself. And I'll tell them you can redact it. I don't need to know all the details. I just need to see the clauses that are relevant to this contract that I'm entering into with you. And that will tell me, for example, the payment terms that they've agreed with their client at the top. And if it's, let's say, 30 days that they've agreed, okay, 30 days, then they get paid, then their internal process, maybe another 30 days. So, okay, 60 days. I need to get paid in 60 days. That's how I'd work it out now. And that's how I work it out for my clients as well. Is That's my cutoff point because I've given you enough time to get it, to process it, and to pay me. And that's my cutoff point. And have some consequences. I like to set some boundaries around missing that cutoff point. What is going to happen if they miss it? Is it going to be some interest rate attached? Are you going to have the right to terminate, to stop work? And we do this quite a bit. It would quite a bit, especially in construction, where we just stop work. No payment, just stop work. Stop work. And you have a right under the law, even common law, to be paid for work that you've done. Okay. So if you're doing work and you're not getting paid, y- you need to consider whether you need to stop work. Now, check your contract because there are some contracts, as I said before, where they say you can't stop work. And I had a client like this where they couldn't stop working because the contract said you have to continue, right? So then you need to seek a lawyer as to what you need to do because there are things that you can do, even if it says that, okay? So have that date. Understand, get a copy, can be redacted, of the agreement at the top, right? The main contract that impacts your subcontract, for example, and look at the key terms that relate to you and the relationship that you're building with this client that you have, and build your dates that way for paid when paid. So, paid when paid plus it can't be forever. So if it's 30 days, they've given their client 30 days, okay, 30 days, then their internal process, ask them. One of the things I do, I ask them, how long does it take for you to process payment? And they'll tell me, oh, it takes 30 days, it takes 45 days because only this person can sign it off, and all of that stuff. Ask them, how long does it take when you get paid? How long will it take you now to process my invoice? And they will tell you, and you tack that on. So you know, okay, it's going to be 60 days. And therefore I should get paid. After 60 days, 60 days is enough. I should get paid, right? That's an example. So that's great, a great way. Always ask to see the contract above if you're going to do paid when paid. Even if they just give you the payment terms only, they don't want you to see their contract. They just want to send you the payment terms. That's fine. I just need to know what's agreed at the top. because it impacts me at the bottom. Okay. Another thing is paid when paid is you can do is uh, have a premium price. They need to pay for the delay. Yes, because what it means is that in your business, you're going to have to be taking money from other clients, right? To fund their non-payment or their long payment term. Okay, let me explain. So let's say you have client A and they're going to pay you £10 and it's paid when paid. So that they're gonna, because more than likely their client, they're charging them way more. Okay, like 20 pounds, £15, who knows? And they're going to give you £10, right? Because they're going to keep some. And you're running a business, you have bills, you have invoices to pay, consultants, freelancers, you have people working with you that you have to pay, right? Who are probably helping you on this project. So for client A, whatever you're doing with them, you have someone probably helping you. Like me, I have client A, I probably have my legal officer helping me or my legal assistant helping me to provide a good quality of service to them. So I'm paying this person, right? But I'm not getting paid from client A because I have to wait until they get paid. So I am paying this legal officer from all the other clients who are paying me, right? So you're kind of supplementing them. You're paying um, for the cost that you have incurred providing services to them until they pay you. And you have to find that money somewhere. Hopefully, you have other clients who are paying you. So you have that cash flow. But if you don't, and this is why you have people who have to go to the bank or to um, private loan people to fund payroll. This is a thing. We all know this is a thing. And that's why. So charge a premium. So if you know this is a paid when paid contract and you normally charge £10, and I've done this, and I'm like, listen, yeah, I can do the work for you, but I'm going to have to charge you £15, £12, £15, whatever it is, because the wait is really long. The wait is going to be long. So I need some incentive to wait this long. I need some incentive to wait this long. Okay. So that's one of the things that I do as well, is just to charge a premium on those contracts. That's why one of the things I have a post where I said, you price the work, each contract, each project, whatever you call it, that portion, whatever you call it, each client, each work, each project, each contract needs to be priced accordingly. You can't have a flat rate for everybody because everybody is not equal. Everybody is not paid when paid. Everybody's not a pain in the arse, right? You price the contract accordingly. You price the work accordingly. So this is my rate if we're going to do paid when paid. If you're going to do paid when paid and my cutoff is, let's say, 60 days, this is my price. If you need a longer runway, it's going to be even more because I need to get paid to wait because you're messing up my cash flow, right? This has the potential to really mess with my business here. Okay. So that's you charge a premium. And one of the key things is, do not, and I said this last week or the week before, is do not give these people any rights, any ownership of your goods or whatever you output, design, whatever it is that if you like, I'm writing a report, for example, I'm doing a legal opinion or whatever it is, do not give them any rights until you've been paid. And we've seen in contracts where they'll say, upon delivery, all rights is vested in them, the client. No, rights is only vested when you pay me. Until you pay me, I will give you a license, which I can revoke. Okay. So do not give these people ownership of anything until they have paid you. Because then what is the incentive for them to pay you? What is the incentive? Right. So whether it be you can't get, and I have clients, especially like architects and designers, who will not provide the designs or the documents until they've been paid because they don't want the client to run off with them. Because if they'll pass it on to their client, for example, and that's the end. Sometimes the chain is so long as well. The relationship, like the supply chain, is so long that you just don't want to dilute. You don't know who it gets sent to, who it's forwarded to. You just don't know. So if you can hold on to it, do not give it over until you've received payment. If you're in a relationship or a contract that doesn't really allow that, or for some there's some nuances around it, then you do not give ownership. You give them a license to use it, and you can revoke that license at any time, right? And do not think that you can't enforce this. It is very much enforceable. I have done this with clients. It's very much enforceable to say you revoke the license, you can't use it. You haven't paid for these things, right? And it's the same thing for goods. We've had it on sites where the client takes doesn't they didn't pay, the goods is dropped there, by the third party delivery company, for example, and the client takes it and put it into their works, their construction, for example. And we're like, no, like if we, like even with Windows, we're like, no, you don't get ownership of it. You have not paid, right? So you have that right. Just that those are just some of the things. There's so much more you can do. That's just some of the things that you can do if you find yourself having to sign up to paid when paid contracts or paid when paid clauses. And ultimately, I would say make sure you put in your termination. I love termination. Termination. I love that clause. Make sure you put in your termination clause that you can terminate the contract if you don't get paid. If they fail to meet the deadline, the paid when paid deadline that you've set, then put in there that you can stop work. You don't have to keep working, and that you can ultimately terminate the agreement. And termination of the agreement doesn't mean that you don't get your money. That's not what it means. There are other things that kick in law, in statute, that will allow you to get your money. You just need to ensure that you're not keep working. And I've seen this where you just keep working and not getting paid. No. Okay. So I hope that answered your question. Paid when paid. And finally, one thing I want to touch on is a contract by any other name. So the other day I was working with my assistant, and the contract came through, and the contract had the name on it didn't match what was inside the contract. And what I like to tell clients that you can call a contract anything you want to call it. Anything. What you need to do is to read the contract to see what the contract is really about. And why I bring this up is the other day I had a client, and the the contract that they thought they were getting into was just not the contract that was presented. So on the contract it had, consultancy agreement, blah blah blah, but in the contract it was not fit for purpose. And I had to explain that we can call contracts anything under the sun. It's not what we call the contract, it's what the terms and conditions say, as well as always ensure that you get it in writing. So the other day I had the situation where the client agreed something with so my client, they agreed something with their client. And it wasn't in writing. When the contract came, they said that they were going to make amendments to the contract based on the meeting that the client had with them. This is before the client came to me. And then when the client got the contract, it didn't reflect what was discussed. And so we had to get to town to, and then the other party was, um, I would say, debating or denying that they had agreed to these things. And my client had already started doing the work, because the contract was delayed, and they wanted them to. So that's why I had that post this week about, if they're rushing you to sign it, it's not a strategy. Okay, it's like it's not a strategy. It's a red light. It's an indicator that you need to stop and really check what's happening. So good thing this client stopped, checked the agreement and realized, no, it's not what we had agreed, right? And so on the tin, it was saying one thing. When you open the can, it was a different thing. So we had to go through and negotiate and amend the contract and get them to concede on certain points that my client had agreed with them verbally. So that's it. A contract by any other name. That's what I'm calling it. It doesn't matter what the contract is called. You read the terms and conditions. The standard form contract, they like to splash on it NEC. When you open the contract, it is no NEC. Okay. Make sure you read your contracts. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I am so happy and grateful that you dropped by. And if you're watching the replay, thank you so much. And as always, send me the DMs. Give me your comments. Let me know what you want me to discuss in my next live. Thank you so much. Once again, this is Office Hours with me, Patricia Haywood, where I talk about everything having to do with contracts and legal for small and medium sized businesses, growing businesses, scaling businesses, various industries, including construction. And I absolutely loved today talking to you. Bye.